All right, and welcome everyone to another IHC podcast. And today is another amazing day in March. And March is one of those special months where, oddly enough, not only am I speaking with one of the owner and directors, but a incredibly wonderful woman. And being March is when we celebrate women, we should celebrate everyone all the time. But until we get to that place where equality and equitability actually happens, we'll keep celebrating, people and their individual growths and opportunities. But here, she really doesn't need an introduction if you know her. But I'll even let her do a little pseudo introduction herself. But I have Lauren Rutkowski once again on an ISG podcast. Lauren, how are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing great too. I actually know that you're good because we've already spoken multiple times today in many of our meetings that we've had as we prepare for the summer with a lot of excitement. But yes, thank you for your very kind words. And yep, International Women's Day was just yesterday. I actually wasn't able to post something on my personal Instagram because I was just too busy and the day ran away with me. But I did post today, and I think, I share your sentiments in that um, we just need to celebrate all people, right? And,
Yeah,
I made the point of making sure that I wrote that this day is to give a nod to any human who identifies as being woman, a woman, and
yeah,
all those that are obviously in their corner. But it's also a celebration, of our kind of male counterparts that are also fighting the good fight, right? Is that although having individual groups can be powerful, at the end of the day, we need the collective to realize, our shared goals. And I definitely want to just be someone who celebrates everybody.
absolutely. And I am honored to be able to work at such a camp that's always so forward thinking in a variety of ways. And Lauren, in any podcast, any conversation, we don't always get it right. But if we don't, we ask ourselves, how can we do it better in the next time? Why did I miss that? How can we be better versions of ourselves? You hear these cliches out there, but at Camp IHC, we truly do mean it, right? I see women who are empowered at camp. I see partners who support them. I see campers who can do the activity that they're excited about, regardless of how they identify. Like that is what, is such an amazing place. And it starts from the top and it goes all the way to the bottom and to the side and all around. So
A
thank you for
hundred
continuing
percent.
that.
No, 100%. And look, I think that, you know, to share, something personal about me, like I just turned 40. So that is just insane because I swear 5 minutes ago I was 21, but here
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that what does come with age, although as you know, there's a lot of not so great stuff like sore hips and creaky knees and, all of
Right.
these things, bad vision. But, there's also a wealth of experience behind you, and you can call that wisdom or, whatever. Like, I just think it's a wealth of experience, right? And what I have learned is that being progressive is actually um, opening yourself up to being imperfect. Because
Mm,
to be somebody who wants to be progressive, you know, particularly in the social realm, as we push the needle forward for those who are oppressed or marginalized, or, to help older generations or those stuck because of belief systems understand where we're coming from and why embracing all, for example, humankind, regardless of how they identify, who they love, what language
right.
they speak, what religion, all of those things. If we are progressive, we are always learning. We're always relearning.
Right.
And the learning phase is that you're not yet an expert, right? So if you are a progressive person who's open to, moving, our species forwards, and embracing change, and or things that have always been but not been acknowledged, you're opening yourself up to being a forever learner, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to get everything right 100% of the time, because like when you were learning to ride your bike, how many times did you fall off before you
Yeah.
mastered it, right? And when you are learning about social change and social justice and all of these things, you fall off, you make mistakes, but you get
Yeah.
back on and you keep pedaling, and then you master that, and then it changes again, because that's progress, right? And I
Love it.
just want to be an eternal failure of falling off my bike, but getting back on and
Get
pushing
back
it
on.
forward until I
Absolutely.
master that. And then knowing that we're going to do it all over again, because
Yeah.
that's what life is about.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, that's a great transition then, and part of this podcast is really to help people who haven't met you have an opportunity to just find out a little bit about you and and camp. And so maybe, one of the questions is there a memory? And I'm sure there's, just like myself, there's countless because we've been doing this for a while now. But when working with youth, can you, again, with confidentiality, share why is camp so important? Is there a moment that you can share with the group as a whole that you're like, here's an example, this day, this moment, and because we were in this space, away from technology, outdoors, in each other's, like that you're like, that's why camp is so important, just like progression and a space to fail forward. Can you give us a specific example?
I mean, there obviously are many powerful examples, that I, could share. Um, One in particular is at the early years of my kind of career at camp. And it relates to a female camper, getting ready for our kind of end of summer, bash event, right?
Bash,
Where the
right?
kids, like, we're not a fancy camp. So like the kids wear like, maybe a romper, or like the girls are like jean shorts and a top, like, but that's as far as it goes, right? Anyway, they were getting ready to go to bash. They were in the sixth grade. Um, and she was standing on the bunk line, and I could see her looking at, the other girls, and what they were wearing. And I think also just thinking about their body shape, right? And
Mm,
she happened to be like a child that was an early developer, right? So her body was changing, like she was, in that phase where, especially, I mean, the boys too, to be honest, like they're uncomfortable in their bodies when they begin to change. But when you're a person that's going through that in the earlier side of the curve, you're looking at the other kids and their bodies look very different, right? And,
mm,
you know, um, and oftentimes, unfortunately, particularly girls are looking at, body shape to be, the more childlike you look, like, crazily enough, like, the better that is, right? So when you look at um, models and whatever,
mm.
often it is this like image of like perfection, or, a body that is not aged, like, but that doesn't make sense. It must be photoshopped. Anyway, the point being that a lot of these
Yeah,
models and these magazines, when you really think about it, beyond the voluptuous whatever they have, like whatever part of their body, all the rest is actually quite childlike, because it's
yeah,
unblemished. And what we
yeah,
know is that as we get older, or we, have children or whatever, right, our bodies become blemished, but those are the perfections, that I want us to celebrate. Anyway, she's comparing herself, I know she is, to these itsy bitsy little, you know, girls that are her bunk mates. And she's, um, you know, I see her like, her spark just go out, right?
yeah.
And I walked over to her and she looked at me, and I looked her in the eye and I said, don't. I said, no. I said, I know what you are doing. And look at me. I said, "You're incredible." I said, "Your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to. And you are beyond beautiful on the
Yeah.
outside and the inside." And she looked at me and she almost like threw herself into my arms. And she was like, "You read my mind." And I remember looking at her and saying, "Honey, I didn't read your mind. I've just lived this part of life before. It's familiar
Yeah.
to me. I've been there." And, off she went and had the best night and whatever. But it stuck with me because I suppose in some ways it was the first time that I really had an appreciation that, for me as someone who identifies as female and has, grown up through like, all the tricky years of girlhood, womanhood, whatever, that we have so much to offer to younger girls because of that shared experience, right? And we almost
Yeah.
don't even have to offer any advice. We can just offer this shared understanding of that really sucks, that hurts, that's confusing, that's whatever. But to share that I actually know what that feels like actually creates a sense of calm and comfort in young girls, and I know also in young boys, because I've had similar discussions with,
Mhm.
you guys about boy side, that it just made me so acutely aware of the privilege of our platform and how powerful um, we can be, you know,
Yeah.
within it. So um, I hope that that kind of made some sort of sense. Sometimes when you talk about the more emotional things, you can't articulate them as well, but that's kind of the one that comes to mind.
Yeah. And I think, when I say why camp is so important is you are an alternative mentor to the society that these campers live in, a space where you have created a comfort and an acknowledgement. And the staff that we hire, right, Lauren, you model that behavior through the staff model that same thing. And when they see you do that, they now pick up that same skill and they can then demonstrate that girl who you helped is now more likely to pay that forward because of those connections, and it's happening in real time, in real space, in a real environment. And you're acknowledging it. And I love how you said also, Lauren, you're like, sometimes it's not even you have to sit down and just address it and nail it and write an outline about it. It's saying I feel for you, like
Hmm.
just having
Hmm.
someone in that space that can speak to having been there, that's not mom and dad, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes
Hmm.
mom and dad, even though you have answers, parents, please, I know you do, but you need that other person coming in there, and what a great opportunity to pass that information forward and help them. So thank you for sharing that.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
be
No, you're
be
welcome.
so being an inspiration to others, who inspires you, right? Is it through book? Is it through film? Is it through art? Are there people? Has there, obviously in all the years, is there someone more recent or someone in the past that you could speak to that inspires and motivates you?
Um, I'm inspired by Blake Lively. She's my spirit animal. No, I'm joking. She's not. But I love her. So so no, I don't think I do. I don't think I'm somebody who has a particular person who I really draw inspiration from. I think it's always a collective group of people, right? So I'm inspired by, obviously our full-time team and, you know, because we're more than a team, we really are like, the family we choose for ourselves and,
Mm,
are in it for all the right reasons. And I think we're an ego-free group, which I think is really incredible. Or I take that back. We all have egos, but we don't allow our egos to lead or to flare, and I love that. I'm inspired obviously by family, and I'm really fortunate to be from a really close-knit family that have so many colorful stories to tell. But I've drawn a lot of almost like um, understanding myself or even having a really clear sense of self from the stories that, I took the time to listen to
Mm,
from my grandparents or aunts and uncles or my parents and close family friends, that a big part of my childhood was conversing around the table,
right.
and being in conversation and in-person discussion with the elders in your family. And that has provided such a richness, not only in terms of like, the love and affection I have for those people, but just also in informing, who I ultimately want to be. Um, I obviously draw a lot of inspiration, from friends and things like that. But for the last probably decade, I've really drawn a lot of inspiration from just like everyday people, right? Across the globe. Like, recognizing like, how many people just make life work, regardless of their
Mm,
circumstances. Like, women like me that have so much and, have so much to be thankful for, but still are just in the struggle of working and, raising kids and checking in with family and,
mm,
all of that stuff. Like, the people that are raising children that are in marginalized groups or whatever, and just having the strength to like, and bravery to put themselves out there and, you know, march for rights and justice while at the same time having kids and doing all the things that I'm doing, but don't have to even, think about, right? So the people that are, carrying their children, across borders to seek refuge in different countries, but are grateful for, the small things like, you know, we're alive. Like, you know what I
we're
mean? Like,
alive.
even though our
Yeah.
circumstance is awful, like, the people that are willing to put themselves out there to say, I'm really glad that you're looking after this group of people, but what about this group of people that you weren't there
Right.
for? Like, just the inspirational stories, like, of everyday humans, right? And I think also uh, being inspired by people who have an ability to talk about tough things in a way that pushes the narrative forward as opposed to shuts things down, right? That,
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, like in the United States, like our political system is a disaster. And it's really because nobody can have a conversation. Everybody's right, you're wrong. Like everybody's like confrontational or antagonizing. That actually like to, watch emotionally developed people be able to have difficult conversations or point out
Mm,
areas that people could improve on or where mistakes have been made, but do so in a delicate way that allows, um, somebody to correct course or shift a perception or,
yeah.
change a lifetime belief system. People who are able to have those conversations. Um, I'm so inspired by them, and that's what I want, to emulate. Like, I want people to think of me as somebody who wants to have hard conversations, is open to being corrected, that, wants to share truths with you, but, whether we're talking about the great stuff or talking about the hard stuff, whether we're, building each
Mm,
other up or having to tell each other, here are some difficult things, that it's done in kindness. It's
yeah.
done in a way that is about, you know, solidifying our relationship, not harming it.
Yeah.
That's who I want to be. That's who I want people to see when they think of me. And people who are modeling that are who, tremendously inspire me.
Amazing. Amazing. So now that we're fully inspired with regards to that, I'm a big fan of laughter and joy. As you know, I try and play the class clown whenever I can, and try and get a laugh out of a group to bring levity, to a situation. So I gotta ask on behalf of campers, people, when's the last time you laughed hard, to the point where your jaws hurt and you just felt exuberant joy, from laughter and joy. Can you share that moment? When was the last time?
Um, so I actually laugh like that belly laugh like often, right? And you know that like that's
Yeah.
something that I worked on as a person that I wanted to be able to let myself go and tap into that inner child, was, like I studied to be a clinical psychologist, like I saw a lot of and heard a lot of dark stories
Hmm.
like very early in my 20s, and that can affect you, right? And I wanted to be able to just tap into that inner child, and definitely people like you and obviously Joel and Maddie and our team have helped me, with that. So I laugh a lot, oftentimes at you, but every day, like because that
Yeah.
obviously I have four children.
Right.
Oakley and Mac are 12 and 9. So it's a really fun time. The littles are still young, but I mean, we laughed really hard this morning because, Oakley is working on he's meant to be working on like community service. And, the bottom line is, and I hate to put this out there to the world, but he's really not giving it his best shot, right? He's not connecting to what community service means. Like he's thinking of it as a school assignment. He's not thinking of it as like, this is about your
It's
responsibility as a human
an
being to give,
opportunity.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a bit of a parenting fail there, but I'm working on that. Anyway, he like, had drawn this picture, and his community service was that he decided that he was going to mail this picture to I don't know, like a soldier. I don't know, that's like fighting in a war. And I was like, okay. And then like, why would this be
Yeah.
beneficial for that person? And he's like, it'll be a morale booster. That way, Mac and I laughed. We were just like, okay, hang on. So this poor, service person
Right.
has like bombs coming at them, and what they're gonna
Right.
hold up your picture and be like, but I got this. Like we were like, dude, like this is not like
Yeah.
it was so bizarre and ridiculous, and like so like, you know, such a fail, right? That
Yeah.
I actually just laughed so hard. Like I was like,
Yeah.
we were coming up with so many like memes for it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm having to go out to fight for my nation.
Right.
But don't worry, I feel great because I have Oakley's picture. Like,
I have Ogre's picture. Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh my
Oakley, like,
God.
honestly, like, what? So we laughed like really hard and, probably inappropriately so. But I was trying to like drive home this, like, Oakley, this is not serving anybody. This is like
Yeah.
total crap. And you need to like
Yeah.
grow up. So,
Well, my cheeks are hurting too, and I think part of and again in a podcast, and if you're just meeting people for the first time, you're like, wow, I can't believe Lauren did that. But the reality of it is such an appropriate interaction because Oakley and his family are incredibly close, incredibly supportive, and this laughter is an opportunity for education for Oakley. I'm laughing, we can laugh, and Oakley is going to take this as an opportunity to say, you know what, you're right, this is not my best work and my family supports me in this laughter and this joy and I will grow from that and just to paint that picture for the people who are listening, but I mean my cheeks are just imagine Oakley. I could see it, it's probably a circle with two dots in the middle and his effort level is probably like this is going to be the morale booster.
oh my
But
goodness.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and just so everybody knows, so my like laughing at my children or my husband is does kind of cross over into the that's not appropriate, right? But they do the same to me. Like there is a little bit of a culture of our family that we can make fun of each other and poke fun of each other and it be okay, right? And I think a huge, um, you know, a huge personality plus, right, is being able to laugh at yourself or be
yes,
laughed at and that
yes,
be okay, right? So I admire that. Like I have a little bit of that. I was raised probably more in a family that didn't like to nobody likes to be laughed at, right? But but if you are super secure, right, you
yeah,
can laugh with people. Do you know what I mean? Like
yes,
you can. That being
yeah,
people don't like being laughed at, because it makes them feel small, insecure, embarrassed, whatever it is, like whatever. Like that's what we don't like, right? It's the feelings that we get when people laugh at us that we actually hate, right? So I guess like, and I was raised in a family that like you couldn't laugh like at people when funny things happen. Like you know what it's like if your dad like
Yeah.
falls in the door, like that's hilarious. Like, and
Someone
you're
drops a
and that
tray and you sing a goofy song, we should
uh-huh.
own that moment and say, "Yep, I'm goofy. I missed it."
Yeah.
Versus this whole shock
Yeah.
and awe of like we've embarrassed, but like
Exactly.
it's developing that little bit of thick skin so that when you're out in that world, not everything
Yeah,
hurts you. Right?
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly. Like
I
there
love it.
should be like be able to laugh. So I wasn't like raised in that kind of family, even though my family's awesome. Like, there wasn't that security,
Yeah,
right? And I want my kids, I watch people who make massive blunders and they are able to laugh and like I'm sure they're embarrassed, but they're just like that is hilarious. Like,
yeah,
and that's what I want. I want my kids to know that people can poke fun at you and can joke with you and you can still absolutely love yourself. Like, do you know what I mean?
absolutely,
It's okay.
absolutely.
So, and
Yeah,
they make fun of me a lot. And I think that that's like, what's been really funny for me, like now that I have like a middle schooler, is that he is like mortified about some of the things that I do. And I'm kind of like, no, no, no. I am like exceptionally cool. I'm like, I've always been cool. Like you didn't know me before you were born, but by the way, like I was like
I'm cool.
awesome, and I'm like, and you, like you will learn your coolness from me. And he's like, oh my God, you're out of control. Like I'm mortified. Like, and it's just so funny because I'm like, no, like I'm embarrassed of my mom at times. You don't get to be
Right.
embarrassed about me because like I'm clearly cool. And it's
It's
just amazing to see your child be like, no, actually, you're not.
you're not.
It's yeah, nothing will make you
Oh
feel
my God.
older than when a sixth
Yeah,
grader is like, don't worry, mom, you just don't say anything. I got this. And I'm
I
like,
got this. Uh,
what? Okay.
yeah. Well, that's why, again, circling back, why camp is such a great place because of this. We laugh together, we make mistakes together, individuals make mistakes, the team support, like I think it is that space again, going back to like a family, like you just said that we sing goofy songs. It's not one person getting laughed at camp. We're laughing in the moments and creating these special places. But then we're doing all this, these other activities, which again, everyone hopefully knows about. We can have a whole nother podcast about. But when you think about that joy, the laughter is one piece of it, the inspiration is one piece of it. I think music plays a big part at camp as well. The kids bring the energy, staff brings energy, but there's always song, there's dance, there's just something about movement and that energy. Meal times, right, Lauren, where kids are singing songs at the end. We have to literally turn the music out and they shout, "We want more," right? Because they're just singing and they're
One more
energized.
song. One more song.
All right.
I'm like, get
So
out of here. We
get
gotta
out of
get to the
here.
shower
Yeah,
hour.
that's right. We got to get on next activity. But you know, uh, this question's got it is personal, and I think in some ways because everyone has different likes. But are there some songs that you're really enjoying right now, or songs from the past that are there three songs that if you had on kind of a playlist that might sort of say these are three songs that in some way or form embody Lauren. This is my pump song. This is my chill song, or this is my get me out of bed in the morning song. Yeah,
Um, I like like I love tear jerkers, like that. Like I love
yeah,
my kind of like, moody songs, but I love my dance songs and like, I love to dance too. So I really like it all. Like I don't think I have a go-to playlist. Like when I think of camp, I actually really enjoy that the campers keep you current, right? Obviously my older two are as well now that they're getting to the age they are, but like, because just so everybody knows, like before you have, at least a fourth grader, you're listening to like kitty songs. Like you don't know
Yeah.
what's in hits top 100. Like you just don't. So, you know what Coco Melon is like. So, anyway, I love that the campers keep me current and like, the songs that they're listening to, I just enjoy, right? So, it's so funny. Like right now in our playlist, we drive the three boys to school in the morning. Austin, our daughter, she goes to a different little school because she's so little. But anyway, the three boys, and they're so into Thrift Shop by Macklemore, even though it's been out for a while. But at the
Yeah.
beginning of
Yeah.
that, the clean version, of
Yeah.
course.
Clean
But
version.
like, at the beginning, there's those three different like voiceovers. Like the one starts, then the other one kicks in, then the third one, and they layer it. So it's so hilarious to
Ah,
watch like them deciding who's doing what part and then like getting going. And then before we know it, like Joel and I are like, oh yeah, this is like
I'm
such a
gonna
good
pop
song. We
some
haven't heard this forever.
tags.
Yeah. And but then in a swoop, like in a hot second, I'll go from that to like, Dear Evan Hansen, like Only Us, like, so and the kids are
Yeah.
rolling their eyes. But I like everything.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for, for sharing that. And with the time that we have left, is there
Hmm.
one or two things that you just want staff, families, campers to know or hear from you before we sign off on this introductory podcast?
Yes. Um, so I want everybody to know that, I am somebody who really loves, being in relationship, right? So I'm not talking obviously about romantic relationships because that box has been ticked,
Yeah.
I'm just talking about mentorship, friendship, you know, directorship, you
Yeah.
know, you know, I love relationships and it is an open invitation for you to be in relationship with me. I'm a sure thing. um, but I know you're laughing. You're like, this is gonna so get misconstrued. But I think if we take her, head out of the gutter, like, I think that I also am somebody who knows that any relationship is reciprocal, right?
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
just because you made a decision to send your child, for example, to IHC doesn't guarantee you a personal relationship with me, right?
Right.
Um, that is something more, right? And I want that with you, to all the parents. Like
Hmm.
I will be an incredible director for your child, whether you want to have a relationship with me or not. But I am better for your child if I am in relationship with you,
Hmm.
right? And I want that. Um, to our campers, like I want to be an influential person in your life. I want to have your back. I want to work with you to enjoy the best parts of your life, and I want to be there for you to help you navigate the worst parts of your life. But I want to be more than just the director that ticks you off the roll call. Like
Hmm.
I want to be a person that no matter what the roads of your life take you down, that that there is this little place in Honesdale, PA, that will always be open to you. And that ultimately is where my heart is. And then to our staff members that, I want um, to be there for you, to invest in you, but I want you to invest in me. Like, I want it to be this reciprocal thing where in the years to come, you look back and say, yeah, that woman, I used to say that girl, but I know that clearly I'm not, I'm a woman now. So, that woman that was like, all those years ago, like she was like, yeah, she meant something to me. Like she changed me. Like she contributed to me and like I'm grateful and I want to look back and when someone says your name just your face to appear in my head and be like they were awesome. I remember this. Like that is born from relationship, right? Because Mark,
Yeah.
thousands of people pass through those gates of IHC,
Yep.
right? Thousands
Yep.
since we've been there, thousands upon thousands, right? But you and I both know that it is those that really came in open and willing and actively engaging and cultivating meaningful relationships with us are the ones that leave their imprint not only on our hearts but on the community. And
Absolutely.
that's what I want our listeners to know. Parent, camper staff, I want to be in a relationship with you. And I really want that to be reciprocal.
That's amazing. What a way to sign out, Lauren. Always an inspiration, always a conversation. It is beyond always a pleasure to have a conversation with you on these podcasts and in real life and in person. So, from the IHC family and beyond, thank you for joining us on this podcast today.
Awesome. Peace out,
Uh,
Mark, and I'll see you shortly in our
See you in our next
orientation
meeting.
meeting.
Always working, baby.
Bye.
Take care.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Love ya. Bye.